Gut, dann gehen wir auch gleich zum nächsten Punkt über. Freut uns sehr, dass wir unseren zweiten internationalen Gast heute ankündigen können. Es ist Professor Janez Koželj. Er ist ehemaliger stellvertretender Bürgermeister der Stadt Ljubljana, Professor für Städtebau und an der Fakultät für Architektur in Ljubljana, Slowenien. Professor Koželj war maßgeblich verantwortlich für die Umwandlung von Ljubljana in eine grüne Hauptstadt. Seit 2007 ist die Innenstadt von Ljubljana für Autos gesperrt. 12 Straßen, die rund um den zentralen Prešeren-Platz und entlang des Flusses Ljubljanicia sind so nur noch von Fuß oder zu Rad zu erreichen. Zusätzlich wurde 2013 von der stark befahrenen Slovenska cesta, damals die wichtigste Verkehrsader der Stadt, ebenfalls 400 Meter, die am Zentrum vorbeiführt, von Autos befreit. Heute ist nicht nur Ljubljanas Zentrum autofrei, sondern die slowenische Hauptstadt hat auch den höchsten Anteil an reinen Fußgängerzonen in Europas. Und jetzt herzlich willkommen, Professor Janez Koželj.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, activists, thank you for the invitation, giving me opportunity to support your very interesting but especially very ambitious project. So I'm glad that what we did in Ljubljana could somehow inspire you, somehow inspire you temptations, giving you courage, in spite of knowing that every city is unique, that nothing could be compared. And every project we undertake is a different story, but in spite of it. So the approach to the restriction on car use in the city center of Ljubljana is specific. It's contextual, one can say. When considering the critical traffic situation, Ljubljana is still critical, you will see. Lack of integrated public transportation system, this is different to Nuremberg, Fürth, zum Beispiel. Traffic habits, dependence on car, personal car, of course. The power of conservative traffic engineers. And on the other side, the ability of the community to accept changes and, of course, limited financial sources, because Ljubljana is not a wealthy city. So we are approaching the reform of traffic system as a part of the renewal of the city center. So this is another goal, another aim. Our determination for this project was and is still based on believing public spaces are active surfaces. Are active surfaces that foster city life and urban transformation when they no longer serve only for motor traffic. So this is the precondition. To this determination, we implemented different urban design projects that have had an immediate impact on the traffic and consequently on the environmental situation in that place. So we are confident the urban design is an integrating discipline that transcends planning and transportation policy, architectural design, development economics, engineering, and landscaping. Its scope is making, namely, connections between people and places, movement and urban form, and landscape and the built fabric. So we are talking about placemaking, which is an approach to urban design that prioritizes people over infrastructure, thus creating a sense of place. by definition. Since the urban design is therefore about the appropriate balance between development and between conservation that is related directly to public health and welfare, we decided to use the rearrangement of public spaces as a catalyst for regeneration of the historical city center. So that what is specific for Ljubljana? The capital city provided best employment opportunities and the largest shopping, leisure, and sports facilities nationwide. Ljubljana is therefore a large attractor for daily commuting to work, study, and shopping beyond the borders of the urban regions. As a consequence, on average, around 100,000 cars enter the city, small-scale city, every working day. Whereas a peak of the number can reach 130,000 motor vehicles a day. So the critical traffic situation was the reason why the main strategic orientation of the municipal mobility plan adopted by City Council in 2012 aimed to turn traffic priority upside down, giving favor to walking and bicycling in order to balance the model split, meaning that 1/3 of trips would happen by personal cars, 1/3 by public transportation, and 1/3 by sustainable means. So a systematic pedestrianization of the city center was a basic task and the most radical measure of the action plan, in which, you can see here, 35 streets, squares, and embankments and other public spaces were designated as pedestrian areas. In 2017, the concept of a central ecozone where the access of cars is limited, restricted, or denied, was revised with the support of this very important fact, environmental NGOs, not political. This is maybe very interesting, even for you. This map shows the current state of different restricted traffic regimes in the area. In the 10 years, namely, we managed to expand the central car-free or car-restricted area to 55 hectares. This is a huge ecozone. So these comparisons would like to illustrate the drastic changes from previous critical traffic situations in the central area, where all the squares were completely occupied by parked cars, and even heavy city buses were passing the historic streets and bridges. So the situation was really unbearable, especially for pedestrians, local merchants, very important, and bar owners, not to mention the traffic safety and the air quality in the area for the residents, for the locals. A precondition for restrictions, you can see there on the slide, a new double-deck bridge was built to complete the inner city ring in order to allow redistribution of incoming and transit motor traffic around the city center. So it was a precondition. This was the fourth project we realized. Circulating along the inner city ring, newly built garages, as you can see, some of them, allowed the drivers to park there, not to enter the city center. So this necklace of garages was a very important measure. After the inner city ring was completed, the rearranging of public spaces to pedestrian zone was followed by renovation of complete underground infrastructure, including underground waste collectors, city bike infrastructure, replacement of paving, public lighting, urban furniture, and what is important, planting new trees. The rearrangement of reoccupied historic square were carried out first. From the very beginning, the network of pedestrian areas we declared as a continual public space the pedestrians and cyclists could share, thus learning and experiencing cohabitation among them. New bridges, 9 in line, connected the river banks with adjacent street. This is, for us, a bridge is green, is part of the green infrastructure. In the network of pedestrian and cycling paths. Landscaping, this is the map of the bridges and footbridges we built. The total sum is 11 bridges, it's a bridge a year. So the sum of them. Some of them. So on. Landscaping, planting trees and arranging parks along the river were part of the pedestrianization of the process. So you see, some of the examples. As expected, the civil initiative of inhabitants of the historic old Ljubljana strongly opposed to the restrictions of motor traffic regulation in the area and demanded that the disputed decree, which closes them in the ghetto, not to be adopted. So, regardless of the claims, the urgent situation forced us to start implementing restrictions, unfortunately, without the full consent of the locals. This is not possible. To reach the full consent, it is utopia. It must be taken into consideration the dependency of the community on cars on one, and the critical environmental situation in the area on the other side. Regarding specific circumstances, we decided to implement measures step by step. This was the strategy, very pragmatic, in small portions, or in small scales, you know? You know why? Giving people enough time to test and to adapt to changes from street to street, from square to square. So that we involved somehow the people to test themselves what we are doing in real. So it was a very efficient strategy. So we applied a pragmatic approach of practical acting and demonstrating the people the benefits in reality. By doing so, not to feel deprived, we offered the locals some compensation for restricted use of their car. First of all, we enabled them cheap parking in a public garage we built under the nearby square. The price is €1 a day. This is cheap. No? In addition, we also introduced an on-demand transportation system and small delivery service which is operating for free, on demand, you just call it, within the car-free area. So this is maybe another compensation. With the future public river transportation we plan to introduce soon, we also facilitate them, the locals, within the restricted area. For this purpose, we built the main river port. As you can see here, there it is here. It is small, of course, but it is. It's main. And boat stops, which are equipped with platforms, gangways, and rafts, serving until now for tourist navigation. So let me conclude with the presentation of the Slovenska cesta, Slovenische Straße. redesign story. Slovenska street occupies, as you can see, the central part of Ljubljana, longest major road, and represents the main development axis of the city, which stretches from the northern to the southern park and ride terminals on the highway junctions. After many years of road widening and adding new traffic lanes, while on the other side narrowing the sidewalks to a minimal extent, the former avenue has been degraded into an ugly and polluted traffic corridor. Constantly decaying public life was the result of supporting the predominance of cars while neglecting pedestrians and cyclists on the street completely. So, narrow sidewalks forced pedestrians to use arcades or to find different routes. Cyclist infrastructure was bad and disconnected, so that besides its representative function, the street was dividing the most densely populated promenades passing through the city center to the Tivoli, the largest city park. So from the very beginning in 2008, the initial small rearrangement were accompanied by staging of different street art events and social performances, aiming to prepare the people to the new shape, to the new function of the street. So that this is the demonstration method, not demonstrating, but demonstration. With them, we tested how the removal of motor traffic generates reviving of public spaces, just the opposite of considering the traffic as a sign of vitality. For example, this is one example. No? The central part of the road was covered completely with zebra-like graphic, which influenced the drivers to slow down instinctively. No? Meanwhile, to moderate the impact of closing the shortcut through Slovenska cesta, we built an additional connection to the northern motorway, making possible to reroute the oncoming traffic to the inner ring road for bypassing the city center. So in the next step, the city encouraged the Architect Association to invite innovative architects to propose different street modeling. This is temporary arrangement, provisional closings, so on, to prepare some visions. After the public presentations and workshops, the city decided to continue with the project in collaboration with 4 offices that created a corporate design project solution. Narrowing space for motor traffic, this is turning off history of the street. No? Widening space for pedestrians and bicyclists, planting new avenues, and performing outdoor activities were the main strategic operation of this project. On the central part, the 4-lane road has been redesigned into 2-lane route intended for public transportation, running way, and for occasional local delivery. So the former road surface has been flattened, this is another measure you know, maybe, and redesigned to be afterward regulated without traffic lights or signals by the concept of shared space. So before implementing the sustainable measures on the street, we have been taking into consideration the ability of the community to accept changes. This was important. And what is more important, to experience them to become more responsible, more tolerant, and more sensitive. So look at here, this is not fake. Look at here how a child is communicating to the bus driver. So this was very namely, this was a risky project, no? But on the end, the process of implementing, yes, was even more, it was even more demanding, not only risky, sustainable mobility measures. But in spite of doubts and hesitation at the beginning, because the people, and especially the bus drivers, accepted the new conditions smoothly with enthusiasm, so that the project surprisingly works. I'm very proud of it. So I became an activist of shared space. Just to conclude, to assume, Ljubljana is among the cities with poor air quality. Air pollution with particulate matter and ozone is frequently the result of location and a poorly ventilated basin. In spite of this, the measurement in the pedestrian areas indicate the CO2 emissions have been reduced by 70%. This is huge. While noise has dropped by an average of 7 decibels. So the area inside of the inner city ring is relatively quiet. The modal split has been significantly stabilized in the last 10 years. The share of personal motorized transport decreased by 16%, public transport stagnated, decreasing by 0.3% a year, but bicycling is increased by 5% a year, and walking increased by 12%, reaching the goal ahead of time. So we estimate that the current modal split reached 33% of walking and cycling, 15% of using public transportation, and 42% of journeys made by personal cars. So, how to end? The projects and measurement the city has carried out proved that sustainability is a long-term process. This is a process of continuous improvement and experimentations. So we need never stop acting, never stop persuading people that sustainable mobility brings benefits for all and a higher quality of life. Thank you. This was namely the most popular taxi circle, no? Okay. This was the main taxi station in Ljubljana.
So thank you very much, Professor Koželj, for your insights of this absolutely success story. Especially for your insights of, let's say, the design of the process, your strategy, how to convince everyone attached in your city. And I think the result is wonderful and gives us a big motivation for our city, for our project, for our vision to come true. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.